We'll go ahead and call it breaking news because of the current situation for the U.S. men's national team. Hoffenheim have released a statement from head coach Pellegrino Matarazzo, which commits his future to the club. This is from our friends at Get German Football News about the American becoming the new USMNT head coach. In the statement, Matarazzo says, quote, "It's extremely important to create clarity and calm in this turbulent phase. I'm proud to be the coach of this team, and I'm very much looking forward to competing with the boys in European competition in the new season. I'm convinced that with the right additions to the squad, we will have another successful season." Sky Germany, Florian Plettenberg et al. Report that the U.S. Federation made an approach to Matarazzo, but there were never any talks between the club and the Fed. In recent days, there had been rumors that Matarazzo is very interested in managing his home nation as they enter a new World Cup cycle, hosting the tournament in 26. Matarazzo and interim director Frank Kramer will now plan their squad ahead of the upcoming season, which will see Hoffenheim compete in Europa League. Already completed the signing of Austrian fullback Alexander Pross from Sturm Graz. Hoffenheim still have an eye on the future. Sandro Wagner was tipped as a potential successor of Matarazzo at Hoffenheim, and they will continue to keep an eye on the German national team assistant. So, you can check Pellegrino Matarazzo off the list. Not happening involving the men's national team. So that's how your Tuesday starts here on SDH, Soccer's Morning Show. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by. And we got news this morning. We got like news and stuff. We've got a lot of the, we have a lot of the transfer news that's available. We've got, actually, we've even got Canada stuff to talk about this morning, and I was going to get to that early morning, Alex. And so you've got the transfer news as everybody's getting ready for what's going on in the Premier League, all of 10 days away. Atletico Madrid, very, very busy. And so we'll get into that this morning, and also all the other transfers. And since I'm on coaches, I guess I'll go ahead and make this opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Let me find the story first and foremost, because I thought it was odd when I saw it. And it was strange. It was strange when I saw the actual story, because I was thinking to myself, is that really the case? Is that really legitimately what is going on? And apparently, actually, I'm like trying to find the story, and I'm violating my own protocols. And yeah, we're still in the summer window for another. Well, if you're a Canadian club, Emilio, it's another 6 days. If you are a U.S. club in Major League Soccer, it's till the 18th. So, I'm all over the place already. Now, we're just barely started. All right, so there's my QR code. For those of you who are watching, however you're watching us, whether it's on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or on the 280-character app, you use that QR code to get you into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvested in youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked as cool, as Carlito would say. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I'm going to kind of move my hand so the QR codes don't get confused. I saw this, and now, of course, I can't find the actual article. And I did not know that this was the case, and I had thought that countries were maybe a little more open-minded, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, in their search for, in their search for coaches. And of course, I'm trying to figure out where it is. But I saw a story, and the headline kind of drew me back a little bit. Apparently, the English FA is basically saying now, the Guardian, now and only starting now, the FA board in England gives approval for a foreign manager to take the England men's job. I was not aware that you had to still go and try and be a domestique if you were trying to be the head coach of the English FA, the England national team. I was not aware that they couldn't look outside their own borders. I thought that was kind of closed-minded. So, but now apparently, CEO Mark Bullingham goes to the board to get the backing, and the FA has an open mind. In the past, I guess they've had a closed mind. We've got an open mind, but you got to be British. Apparently, now and only now, I figured since I mentioned the Matarazzo story, Matt Hughes from The Guardian, quote, "The Football Association Board have given formal approval for the appointment of a foreign manager to replace Gareth Southgate." I legitimately thought that they could already do that. Maybe it's just because I've been locked into the idea of, oh, okay, so that's the new manager. You look at it at face value. But apparently, no, until now. The Guardian has learned that Chief Exec Mark Bullingham went to his 9 fellow board members to gain their backing to approach foreign candidates before beginning the recruitment process. The board are understood to have endorsed Bullingham's request without putting it to a vote, although there were some dissenting voices. Because obviously, you've got plenty of good candidates that are there. I know that you're chasing after Eddie Howe, but I mean, the notion of, okay, every candidate we have is the best candidate for our gig, and they're British. Bullingham's decision to go to the board indicates the FA has an open mind over who should replace Southgate as the England men's manager and is determined to recruit the best candidate. During the board discussions, it's understood the success of Serena Wiegman in leading England's women to win the 22 Euros was cited as a good precedent for considering a foreign manager. Yeah, I'd say so. Serena Wiegman wins the Euros. Hey, that's a good idea. Oy vey. Might be more of an oy gewalt at this point. Mauricio Pochettino and Thomas Tuchel are the leading overseas candidates because both are available. Now, do you really? I don't know if that phrasing by Hughes is intentional, but the way that sentence is structured, let's think about this for a second. Mauricio Pochettino and Thomas Tuchel are the leading overseas candidates because both are available. Do you want that, really? Shouldn't you kind of just come up with maybe a list or something? But yeah, Mark Hughes over at The Guardian. Because they're available. That's not really setting a high bar. Hey, we've got an opening. Well, who should we consider? Well, how about Pochettino and Tuchel? Why? Well, they're available. They're around. Let's kick the tires on them. After leaving Chelsea and Bayern Munich respectively last season, but their salary demands could be problematic for the FA, which was paying Southgate about $5 million a year. Yeah, I'd say so. And only 2 more days of that, by the way. I have my appointment tomorrow afternoon with the ENT for my yearly visit. Thomas Tuchel, I mean, the time frame for the next World Cup cycle would fit Tuchel. Because usually his running of hot and cold, usually, about 18 months to 2 years? You go through the World Cup cycle in 26, that's about right. Just with Tuchel in general, not necessarily just the notion of hiring Tuchel and getting to a World Cup. But yeah, usually 18 months to 2 years. Then Thomas Tuchel sits there and it's like he'll get frustrated. The front office will get frustrated. There'll be a clash of ideas, and then you'll have a parting of ways. So $5 million a year for Gareth Southgate. English contenders include Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. Potter obviously has been out of work for 16 months after leaving Chelsea. The FA search is being led by Bullingham and the technical director, John McDermott, who will assemble a shortlist and conduct interviews before returning to the board for ratification of their intended appointment. Given England's next game is a little over a month away, the Nations League tie in the Republic of Ireland on the 7th of September, and the squad is to be named a fortnight before, it's likely the U21 manager Lee Carsley will be asked to take interim charge. Carsley could be a candidate to take the job on a permanent basis, given his success in winning the European U21s last summer, when his side won all 6 matches without conceding a goal and beat Spain in the final. Bullingham is appointing his first senior England men's manager, his predecessor, Martin Glenn, having given Southgate the gig. Speaking before England's run to the final of the Euros last month, Bullingham said the FA was working on a succession plan, I would hope so, ... Quote, any organization has a succession plan in place for their top employees, and we are no different to that. The succession plan normally includes everything from what you do for short-term cover through to a process you follow to candidates. But the wording in the article, first off with the U.S., Pellegrino Matarazzo pulling himself out of consideration. But the idea that the FA waits until now in general, not just this cycle and leading into Nations League in 26, but the FA waiting until now to sit there and go, well, maybe we should kind of broaden our horizons a little bit. Not denying Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. Not denying that. But the notion that you waited until now in your history of searches to sit there and go, maybe we should kind of open the door a little bit. Just saying. So, I mean, it's, yeah. Okay, well, congratulations to the FA for finally opening their doors to qualified candidates all around this or any other planet. So we'll see what happens. But the FA finally opens the door, and they're like, yeah, maybe we should open the door to foreign-born candidates born outside the England, the United Kingdom. So yeah, I saw that this morning. I was like, really? They hadn't even considered that. But yeah, when you think back on it, you sit there and you have not opened the door to candidates that were born outside the United Kingdom until now. All right, that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out with us, however you're watching us on the video side of things, either on YouTube, the Twitch, or the 280-character app. And what you can do, you hit that QR code, you go into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked as cool. Right there. QR code, Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And for me hiding the QR code until now, it's from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. Over 30 years of nursing experience trying to find your career, if this is the direction you wish to head in to chase your new frontiers. Alliance Nurse Corps, you hit that QR code. That's why I cover it up separately, because you don't want to get QR codes mixed up. You don't want to try and chase after Kickoff Coffee and end up clicking on Alliance Nurse Corps, and you don't want to do vice versa. But our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, over 30 years of experience, click on the QR code here on the screen or visit our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. And when they ask you, how did you hear about Alliance Nurse Corps, what you say is, SDH, man. Soccer Down Here was where I heard about them, and that's why I'm now interested in catching up with you for my new career when it comes to the ideas and the frontiers of nursing. So our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, great sponsors with us here at SDH. Morning, Alex, Emilio, and Michael. And I know that you guys are talking season ticket holder renewals and things like that. We'll get into that, obviously, this morning and see what everybody thinks. One of the other stories that I wanted to get into this morning, obviously, with Paris, with what happened yesterday, where the center ref decided he was not going to try and have VAR influence what was going on yesterday. And so Spain returns to the gold medal game with a win over Morocco. Juan Luis Sanchez scored a late winner. Spain came from behind to beat Morocco by the score of 2-1. Morocco had led the semifinal through a Soufiane Rahimi penalty in the end of the first half in Marseille. Fermin Lopez for Barca equalized midway through the second. Sevilla's right back Sanchez got the winner. Spain's second consecutive appearance in the final of the Olympic men's soccer tournament. They had silver 3 years ago in Tokyo after losing an OT to Brazil. Spain chasing a second goal after triumphing in Barca in 92 goes to Paris for the final, where they will play France. Yes, France was the VAR was trying to reinforce a win for France yesterday. But the center ref was like, nope, not interested. but France would end up getting the Duke anyway. Morocco can still claim a first medal, winning the bronze match Thursday in Nantes. Last year's U23 AFCON winners that impressed on their run to the semis, looking to beat Spain, scored in the 37th minute. Morocco awarded a penalty following a VAR check for a foul by Pablo Barrios on Amir Richardson in the box. Raimi stepped up to send the keeper the wrong way. The sixth goal of the Olympics for the tournament's leading scorer, 4 coming from the spot. Spain kept their cool to equalize through their star man in the 66th. Lopez, a member of the Euro 2024 squad, who scored in the quarters against Japan, tied to make it at 1. And then Spain wins it in the 85th as Lopez finds Sanchez, sends a shot into the low corner. And so Spain returns, and France beat Egypt in overtime. Jean-Philippe Mateta scored twice, beating Egypt in OT, setting up the showdown with Morocco. Thierry Henry, I wonder what Kate Addo, Jamie Carragher, and Micah Richards are thinking about all this. See, this is almost kind of content that I wish we had separately, but you know that you'd run afoul of perhaps the 5-ring circus if you did it. What are the rest of the crew on the Champions League desk thinking about this run? And especially after the run, and I mean that literally, that Thierry Henry had after the win yesterday. Mahmoud Saber put Egypt ahead of the run of play in just after the hour mark. Mateta leveled late to force OT. Omar Fayed gets sent off. Michael Olise gets a goal in the 108th, looking for their second men's soccer gold, first since 84, and they now get Spain at the Parc des Princes. And you hit the woodwork late, Loic Bade, late in the first half, and Saber fired Egypt ahead in the 62nd minute. Alexander Lacazette off the post. Bade hits the follow-up against the bar, 83rd minute. Olise gets the creator, gives to Mateta. He scores. Egypt reduced to 10 men quickly in overtime when Fayed saw yellow again when he chopped down Desiree Doué. And so France goes ahead in the 99th. Sildilia heads Olise's delivery back across goal for Mateta. And Olise fired the third in the start of the second OT after a clearance struck Doué fell into his path. And France celebrates only as France does at home when they're chasing after a gold medal. They get the win. Took them a while, but it is going to be France and Spain going up for the gold, and Morocco and Egypt are going to be going for the bronze medal in that tournament. All right, so the Canada news that I promised you, and like I said, today we're catching up on all the news that we haven't had the chance to catch up on. So we've got news, we've got Paris, we've got Leagues Cup, we've got transfers, we've got else's on whatever's on your mind today. By the way, rundown for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, Tyler's going to join us at 9:15 as he always does. Hopefully the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, can join us at 10. We'll talk Leagues Cup, whatever else is on his mind. Who's out of Leagues Cup, we'll go over all of the Leagues Cup stuff after what happened yesterday, and then the matchups in the bracket. We'll get into that too today. Thursday is the Nino and Nico hour number 2, and then we will chase after all of the other news in hour number 1. Friday, and what we're also going to be doing all week is we're going to be chasing after the teams in the UPSL Final Four. That Final Four is in Pittsburgh this weekend at Highmark. No word on if Bob Lilly is going to be yelling at anybody for those 4 teams that are not associated with him. So we'll be chasing after the 4 teams in the UPSL Final. And over the next couple of weeks, as we get ready for the USL Super League, we'll be catching up with folks from each of the franchises there to get you ready for the season. And if you've missed it, catch up with the interview that Maddie and Jason did on the network. And it is a conversation that they had about Spokane, Washington, and one of the franchises that's there, Spokane Zephyrs' Jenny Vetter. It's a great conversation that they had there about the upcoming USLS and a visit to Spokane. And also, if you missed it, I would recommend you go back to the SDH social media channel. Speaking of sit-down interviews, it was a great piece that Nick and Maddie put together on Carly Banks. Carly Banks from Stars Mill High School is now part of the first U.S. women's futsal roster, and they recently had a training camp, and they caught up with Carly down at Stars Mill. Really cool piece that Nick and Maddie put together. It's 7 minutes long, but it's worth it. It's a cool 7 minutes on Carly Banks. So if you missed it and haven't had the chance to watch it, go to our social medias. It's on our YouTube channel. You can just do a search for Soccer Down Here on YouTube, and you get to catch up with Carly Banks and find out about her history at Stars Mill and what it's like now to be a part of something really special with U.S. Women's Futsal and the camp that they just had. So Friday, obviously, our friends from Beyond Goals will get you ready for the weekend, and we'll see if we can get some special guests joining us from Pennsylvania all week long as well. So that that catches you up on the guests that we have. We've reached out to other folks about key stories. We'll see if they can come in and join us when it comes to all of the activity that's going on, and we will keep you prepped as to what's going on with that. I'd mentioned, since we're kind of in the Olympics and we have the women's preview that we have to get into since the men played yesterday, I need to update you on what's going on in Canada. And there is more, but it is reaction as opposed to news, because we do not have anything yet from Rick Westhead. And like I said, Rick Westhead is not a guy whose byline you want to have involving you. You don't. But our friends at She Scores Bangers, and that's literally that is their Twitter title. You know, She Scores Bangers. Literally, that is who they are. And they had an interview in Paris with a couple of the Canadian national team players. And it's not necessarily surprising. So it was an interview that was done with Vanessa Gillies, with Evelyn Vian, and with Gabrielle Carl, Evelyn Vian, and Vanessa Gillies. And they had an interview with CBC Radio Canada. And it was done in French. I'm not going to play the interview because it's 4 minutes and it's in French. So what I'm going to do is we'll go through their interview that they had, and it adds more to what the Olympic experience was for some of the members of the Canadian women's national team. And the question was, it leads off with our friends from CBC Radio going, just general reaction. And Gilly says, yeah, I think we're all still in shock. Emotionally, I think that it hasn't set in yet. We're in Paris now physically. We walked 20,000 steps yesterday. We tried to enjoy the Olympic Games and be there enjoy the most of them because the last few weeks have been tough. Question: how did the players find out about the drones? Vian: I think we can write a whole novel of the 3 days about what happened in Saint-Etienne, but we could just send our diary. I think that would be good. I've got photos to back it up, but no, for real, I think we found out about it at a meeting. And then there was a lot of stuff that came out with what the media found out, what we learned via the media too. So yes, it's been complicated, but I think what we managed to do on the pitch is quite a feat with the little energy we had left mentally and physically. Interviewer: when you found out, Gabby, what was your reaction at the moment? We were really shocked because on the first day, and this is Vanessa Gillies. Vanessa Gillies: we were really shocked because on the first day we arrived at the Olympics, had our RCMP security chief who tells us the rules in France, the safety rules. He told us that drones were illegal in France. So learning what happened with a drone, it was still, I banged my head against a wall, let's say, by wondering why our coaching staff thought that we should go and have a look at what New Zealand was doing. Because to this day, we still don't understand what advantage we could have had by knowing the information from their rondo or whatever. Question: is this making you angry? Gabby Carl: yes, completely. That's for sure. We so badly want to be to compete at the Olympic Games. Never in our lives would we have thought that it would have been like this. It's frustrating to know that our coaches didn't think we could win with integrity. It's not something we expected. And then, of course, it happened. It gave us a fire, waking something in us that this has been a beautiful story. So there's that. But yes, very, very frustrated. Question. At one point, you thought you'd just quit the program, quit the team, basically. Vian, seriously, after the first match at New Zealand, I went to see my parents. I told Van and then Gabby too. But after the match with New Zealand, I told my parents, I said, if there's no change, it's not my values that come into it. I want to represent my country, but not with those values. And then they ask about after the drone story came out, finest moment that made you laugh. And despite the defeats that you're proud of yourself, I think it's a feeling of pride. Yes, I'm proud of how we got back out on our feet. What we've been through as a team, we've managed to stick together because there are many teams in the world that would have stayed apart. I think that's something to be proud of because I'm 100% proud. So that's Vanessa Gillies, Evelyn Vian, and Gabby Carl with their interview with CBC Radio Canada. And so, not surprisingly, there was a thought that the players would be like, nope, we're out. That we would be absolutely out. Once again, not necessarily a surprise, but the fact that they stuck with it, and you see the end result where they were chasing after medals. So once again, we have no news. We have no news out of Canada, at least not yet. But you're starting with tournaments over and things like that for players. You're starting to get more of a response from folks. Once again, not surprising that you would have this kind of a response from the players. But, we mentioned yesterday that the Canada Soccer investigation into itself isn't making folks feel a whole lot better because players are unsure if they can navigate the Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner and the office appointed lawyers. Canada Soccer officials, remember, they subsequently decided that the probe wasn't being handled properly and pivoted, bringing in a different lawyer to start the process over. Soccer officials worked behind the scenes to determine how to handle a complaint that had been reported to a Federation board member alleging the women's national team had become a toxic workplace. Once again, I can't say that I'm surprised, but Canada Soccer works behind the scenes. They decide a probe's not being handled properly and pivoted. I'll put those words in quotes. Then they bring in a different lawyer. When a source tells TSN, people who were interviewed did not receive a copy of an investigation report, and they weren't even told what, if anything, the complaint led to. Safe to say that the trust that was given because the investigation was independent was lost after that. It may be hard to trust yet another independent investigation. So in addition to everything that we've been talking about involving drones and an apparent program and an accepted practice involving drones that goes back to, at the very least, 2019, with John Herdman being tied to it, Bev Priestman being a disciple of John Herdman. Now you have, in addition to all of that, players who stuck together, thought about quitting, no real surprise, and individuals who are interviewed or being interviewed as a part of this process now being asked to discuss the idea of a toxic workplace environment. And we've discussed in the past how individuals who were basically told this is part of your job, that you will be spying on folks or that you will be using drones or what have you. This is part of your job description. And it made folks uncomfortable to want to do that or to have to do that to keep their job. Now you're looking at the idea of a toxic workplace investigation and the idea that that toxic workplace investigation is being questioned because you swapped out lawyers, and now apparently people who are interviewed aren't getting copies of investigation reports. If you complain and then you're not told what the complaint led to, if anything, there is now a question of trust among individuals who are tied to Canada Soccer and who may work for Canada Soccer. So this is a mess on multiple levels. Sources told TSN they're open to sharing their perspective on working with the women's national team, but aren't sure, based on their experiences with two previous investigators, whether they should trust the newly independent investigator. And folks who were interviewed during the 2023 investigations told TSN they wanted the Federation to release them from NDAs so they could share the story publicly. Federation told TSN that they're not going to agree to release people from NDAs. And wrote in an email that, hey, if you've got a question, then you've got to go to this new investigator. You've got to go to the investigator that is in Toronto with a law firm hired to investigate the spying incident in Paris and the historical ethical decision-making. That has got to be in quotation marks the entire time. Historical ethical decision-making. When your CEO mentions that phrase, and that continues to be brought up and brought up and brought up. Spokesman Paulo Senra mentions the lawyer by name Sonia Regenbogen. We'll interview any current or former staff who wishes to speak with her. Our organization will continue to take decisive action, and that can only happen by enabling this review to proceed independently. I'm going to peel back for a second. What decisive action have you taken? Let me rephrase. What proactive decisive action have you taken? Everything involving the program has been because of the investigations that have been out there. Specifically, Rick Westhead's at TSN. Full disclosure, we've reached out to Rick, and we'll see if he can come on and talk about this. But I don't know if, because he is tied to a network, that he can only do that network. But we have reached out to Rick. We've done our due diligence, and because I think that it's important to have him on, or someone who is in the trenches. If he can't do it, I'm going to see if he can recommend someone to come in and talk about this. Because this is important on multiple fronts. But when the only activity that you do is reactive and not proactive, you can understand the possible lack of trust that anyone would have involving an investigation and what you have to say in it. But Canada Soccer is like, no, you got to talk to the lawyer in Toronto. After you've changed your lawyers out, you got to talk to this one. She's the one in charge of what's going on in Paris. You have to talk to her. Having to win the trust of anyone in this case, especially with how it is blown up in multiple directions. And going to the interview that we just talked about, where the players wondered about their own coaching staff. We can do this on our own with our ability. You don't have to do that. But then what does that say about the players and the lack of trust that they have with their coaches? Coaches aren't comfortable enough with themselves and with their own coaching ability, with the players that they've assembled to get wins in a group that you ended up winning anyway. You ran the table. You had no problem with New Zealand. Although folks are going to sit there and say, well, that you had the added advantage. That specter is always going to be there. Job for investigators obviously has become more difficult in this because of all of the activity that's been going on. And now you have distrust from players to coaches. And now you have an organization that has swapped out lawyers. Why should I, if I don't think that I'm going to be either listened to, or if I'm going to be listened to, it won't be genuine? Why should I invest my time? That would be a question that I would have, obviously, and it looks like a lot of folks are having that question, especially now that you've rotated lawyers. How will Canada Soccer help the new lawyer, the new investigator that is based in Toronto as a lawyer? Is Canada Soccer going to help provide contact info for everyone for this particular lawyer? Or is that lawyer going to have to do all the legwork herself? Is the lawyer going to promise anonymity to prospective witnesses? So you might have the prospect of signing an NDA as an employee, and then you go to an individual, an authority figure that's attached to this case. Can you speak anonymously and try and make your point and not be afraid of A, keeping your job, B, keeping your reputation, or C, having that twist because of a conversation that you would have that could or could not be anonymous? Another question that was attached. Canada senior national teams have allegedly been spying on other teams' close practices since at least 2016. That's 8 years. All the way back to 2016. Women's national team head coach Bev Priestman wrote in a March email to the human relations consultant, remember, spying is a widespread practice among the world's top national teams and can be the difference between winning and losing. Wrote that in an email. Wrote that in an email to a human relations consultant. Docked the 6 points. Canada Soccer provided FIFA and CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, with Priestman's emails in an attempt to appeal the penalty. Hey, if we show you this, once again, being reactive as opposed to being proactive. Reactive as opposed to proactive. You're doing this because you got caught. My larger questions to this are, who knows, who knew, dating back to 2016, how much plausible deniability is attached to this? Who wanted to know, who didn't want to know? Do what you're going to do, don't tell me. And as we've had the discussions here on the show, a show that is based in the Southeastern Conference college football footprint understands all of this more than the average bear. You guys know all about this kind of stuff. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And it's only cheating if you get caught. Canada got caught. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. We initially thought it was twice. 3 times attached to this tournament. 3 times attached to this tournament. Unproven allegations suggest Canada had close calls with being caught before the incident in France. 2021, once again, before they played Honduras in a World Cup qualifier in Toronto. This is the one where John Herdman basically said in the press conference, and we still have the soundbite, it's at the tail end of a 4-minute presser. I'm not going to play it. But John Herdman, that Friday before the Red Bulls match, did his word salad dance. In my time as head coach at Olympic Games or World Cups, we've never been involved in any of those activities. Because of that, remember, that was when the afternoon of that press conference, Herdman pre-Red Bulls has 5 minutes of questions about it. The press officer at the press conference tried to steer the conversation back to Leagues Cup. Can we have some Leagues Cup questions, please? It didn't quite work. But after that press conference, that was when folks went to Westhead and called Herdman out on his BS. 17 players attended a briefing August 31st, 2021, in a Toronto hotel ballroom. Watched as John Herdman played a video that showed the Honduran national team's closed practice a day earlier. Someone in the room told Rick Westhead. And for that individual to come up with the number 17, that's not a number that you sit there and you pull out of your hat. 17 players. Someone goes to Rick Westhead after John Herdman says what he said. Goes to Westhead. 17 players were in that room. Herdman being Herdman. Canada's going to play Honduras in that World Cup qualifier 2 days later. It was a 1-1 draw. So you do all of this research. You do all of this spying. You get the drone video. And you still only draw Honduras in 2021. The source told Westhead to study the screen. Herdman being Herdman. Herdman explained the Honduran team favored a 4-4-2, medium-high press, and that simplicity was the key to Canada being successful in the important game. Herdman emphasized turning the Honduran team around in the first 15 minutes. Westhead independently confirmed that. So with all of the studying and all of the drone video that you did, you still only did well enough for a draw in a World Cup qualifier against Honduras at home. John Herdman said what he said in that press conference. Declined to comment otherwise. And you're supposed to get the independent review. Don't hold your breath on the length of time for that. Opposing teams' practices, spying had been a tactic used at least 2016 when the women's national U16 played in St. George, Grenada. Staff discussed how a colleague found a place to stay hidden and spy on opponent practices, talked about how they needed to patrol the perimeter of their own training center. Canada soccer contractors asked by women's national team coaches to film practices. Here's a camcorder. 2017, here's a camcorder. We can't go because if they catch us, we'll be in trouble, but you can go, and if they catch you, you can say you're a student, just like a random person. So they gave me a camcorder, the kind of mom would take to record her kids' games, sent me off telling me to get some footage of their formations. Found 2 U.S. practices in 2017, but they couldn't use it because the video was so awful, according to the contractor, and you could actually hear that individual hyperventilating on the tape. Told if you wanted to work in women's football, really have a career, the kind of tough stuff you have to do. Second contractor said they were a member of the women's national team staff in 2023 during She Believes in Orlando. Assigned twice to film an opposing team's close practice. Second time, the contractor just said no. Coach pushed back, said they really needed for me to do it, stood my ground, said no. Because remember, to do a drone, you've got to register it under a name and an ID number. Easy for law enforcement in a big tournament to identify whose drones they were. And then there's the whole thing about the Edmonton Soccer Dome. Canada basically said to Edmonton Soccer Dome, we're using this. No one else is allowed to. Everybody else is outdoors. Canada would only use it once, but they just wanted everybody else outdoors. John Herdman pisses people off. They go public. And that's where we are. John Herdman, all of a sudden, has decided to clam up. He was very open in his initial discussions about the whole thing. But now that Bev Priestman has been given a 1-year suspension, show cause, whatever you want to call it, in college football parlance, John Herdman has finally decided he's not going to say anything. like I said, we've reached out to Rick Westhead, and hopefully we can catch up with him about all of this work that he's done, or someone close to him that has been integral in the process. But Canadian players came public with CBC Radio, and they were like, yeah, we thought about quitting because of what kind of trust does that have from our coaches that they want to go out and do the spying element of it instead of trusting us with our own abilities and their own coaching. I think that also speaks to the coaching of John Herdman and or Bev Priestman, that they can't seem to succeed without that kind of crutch. I'll go ahead and use that word. Additive, whatever word you want to use. So I know that we're talking a lot about it. We need to. It needs to continue to stay in our public consciousness. I know as we're chasing after medals, we know what's going to happen on the we know what's going to look like on the men's side. Women are today. News for those of you who are chasing after the information with the U.S., that's at noon, by the way. But word came out this morning before the show started. No Alex Popp, no Leah Schuler for Germany. So Alexandra Popp, not available. Inflammation of the patellar tendon in the left knee. Leah Schuler is going to miss the semifinal. Sarai Linder, who's recovered from an infection, returns to the 18-person squad. No Alex Popp either. So it's going to be a tall order for Germany in this matchup today. And in the discussion that we had with Bart yesterday, and you can go back and listen to that on the network, the idea of not substituting, we mentioned it yesterday, it's very, very Berhalterian. Berhalterian? It's very 3GB-ish. Sticking with the players that are out there, running them out there unless you need to make a substitution. And I mean unless you need to make, underline, exclamate, italicized, boldface print. Emma Hayes has been rolling with the same lineup, understandably so with the successes that you've had, but in a tournament that is basically midweek weekend, you're running a bit of a risk. Tierna Davidson injured with the knee contusion. Emily Sonnet swapped in for the last two matches. Sam Coffey suspended. Corbin Albert goes in for the Japan game. Same lineup each time. So I would anticipate that at noon against Germany, it's not going to be any big change. Davidson and Jaden Shaw and Emily Fox trained on Monday ahead of the USA-Germany semifinal. Hayes said, quote, I don't believe we'd have gone through if we'd made too many changes. It's those relationships that are developing that are putting us in a situation against a world-class opponent in a very, very short space of time. I haven't had much time to work with the whole squad. I'm still learning about everybody. U.S. Olympic starters in the first four matches. This is the fewest number of starters that a U.S. team has had in an Olympics since 2000, when the same lineup got trotted out and trotted out and trotted out and trotted out. 1996, 12 starters. You won a gold. 2000, starting 11 all the way through. 2004, you had 15. 2008, 2012, you had 14 starters. 2016, you had 16. 2020, you had 17. This year, you've only had 13. So, Emma Hayes not rotating a roster, not necessarily a surprise. Horst Rubesch looking forward to getting the rematch against the United States. Once again, it was a 4-1 win in Group B. Rubesh said, we've grown quite well in this tournament. Also saw in the first match against the USA, we actually played quite well. To be perfectly honest, Rubesh wasn't supposed to be coaching in Paris. 2016 led the German men to a silver, falling in PKs to the hosts in Rio. Came out of retirement in October of 23 to fill in when Martina Voss-Tecklenburg fell ill. Only previous experience coaching women came with a caretaker role in 2018, while the DFB sought a replacement for Steffi Jones. Stayed around. February, qualified for Paris. Merle Fromm's now the backup to Gotham keeper Ann-Kathrin Berger. His relaxed manner is almost grandfatherly, and it's effective. Germany's group stage exit in 23 in the World Cup under Voss-Tecklenburg, their worst performance ever. Piece of trivia from our friends at Soccer America about Rubesh. 2009 U21 championship winning side. Neuer, Havedes, Boateng, Hummels, Khedira, Özil, and Fabian Johnson. Wears the interim tag in Paris, succeeded by Christian Vuk after the tournament, and he's been very, very thankful. USA versus Germany, just so you know, in World Championships. USA won 5-2 in 91 in the semis. Won 3-2 in the quarters in the 99 World Cup. 2003 World Cup, Germany won in the semis. 2004 Olympics, USA won in the semis 2-1. 2015 World Cup, USA beat Germany 2-0. 2024 Olympics, they met in the early rounds, 4-1 in the group stage, and they're going to meet back again in the semis. Teams tied on shots in the first go-around at 13. Shots on target, 8-7. Emma Hayes admitted shot conversion was high in the first game, a tight matchup. Even if you play the same opponent a week apart, they're always two very, very different games. The key, Rubesh said, is making better use of our chances, coping with Rodman, Swanson, and Sophia Smith. Good luck. Scored 8 of the 10 goals in 4 matches. Rodman, Swanson, Smith. Corbin, Albert, and Lynn Williams have scored the other 2. According to Rubesh, beating Canada tested our fortitude, and we really needed that. USA also went to OT on Sunday in their win against Japan. Germany's won 2 Women's World Cups in 03 and 07, won the gold in 2016. 4 gold medals for the U.S., the last one in 2012. After settling for bronze, according to Soccer America, in Japan in 2021, exiting the 2023 World Cup in the round of 16. A Tuesday win will prevent an unprecedented drought of reaching World Championship finals for the U.S. Not since the gap between 99 and 04 have the U.S. women gone half a decade without reaching the final. So that is what you're looking at with the U.S. side. With U.S. and France at noon. Once again, Summer Cup semifinals to continue your day. CBS Sports Network, very busy. Gotham and Angel Cities at 5. Current and Courage is at 9. Real Madrid and Chelsea in a friendly on the Deuce at 7 o'clock. USA simulcasting USA and Germany. Deportes is simulcasting Real Madrid and Chelsea. Spain and Brazil is your other semifinal. That's at 3 o'clock. That's on Universo. Leagues Cup has 1 matchup tonight. We'll get into Leagues Cup coming up around the corner. New England and Nashville's at 7:30. The Plus has both of the friendlies, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Barcelona, AC Milan. Golazo Network, Dortmund and Villarreal at 12:30. NBCSports.com, obviously, and all the Peacockian channels have both of the matchups. Paramount Plus has Summer Cup semis and the club friendly, and then Peacock once again simulcasting. So that's what to watch and how to watch it today. Juice boxes in those particular matchups, just so you've got them. If I could spell odds. And I think it's under World. I think I have to go all the way down to the bottom. Yeah, Olympic Games, World. Got a bunch of friendlies today. So, of course, I hit Olympic Games, and it gives me something different. It gives me the men's side. Olympic Games women is the thing that I have to click. USA on the minus side at a minus 116. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 237. Germany is a plus 365. Brazil, a plus 501 to win in 90 minutes. Got to straighten that thing out. Draws a plus 266, and Spain to win is a minus 164. So if you believe in the juice boxes and love them, the minus sides on the U.S. to win in regulation and Spain to win in regulation as well. So that's what you're looking at there. Man, I'm going to have to flatten this thing out. I'm going to apologize ahead of time to our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps that I have to flatten out their banner. So nothing like doing this on live TV. All right. So since it fell 9 different times, I'm going to go ahead and adjust it there. There we go. We'll see if it'll flatten out over the next couple days. All right. Let's get into what you guys are talking about. And I know a lot of you are having the discussion about the season ticket deadlines and such. And I know that the back and forth is there. So morning, Alex. Morning, Emilio. Morning, Michael. Morning, Wiley. Oh, well, hello, Nesser, whenever you came in this morning. So, all right. So while I was discussing what's been going on with Canada soccer, we're going to block Nesser. Nothing like doing that in real time. And we're going to report Nesser as a bot. And I love the fact how you guys you guys always want to jump on these kinds of things. And I thank you for it. 10:02 a.m. Are we in Eastern Standard Time? Oh, whatever. All right, so we are now. Okay. So the bot has been reported. And I know that, like I said, I know a lot of you folks are discussing the season ticket renewals. And I know that that's been a big part of the discussion. So morning, Emilio. Morning, Michael. Morning, Unk. Morning, Nick. Morning, Michael Valverde. And so let's see. Yeah, Emilio. Yeah, I know you're being sarcastic. Well, but remember, always remember. He says he's being sarcastic, can't keep up with all the moves. But what we will do is see if there's any reporting going on out there, if there's any gossip of any description. We'll see if there's any gossip with 12 days left in the window. So, a lot of discussions about where folks were, all this kind of stuff. We'll get into the other transfers. Let's see. Okay, so once again, check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. So you can put this one wherever you need. It looks like, according to Spanish media, Ayoze Perez. So we'll keep an eye on Ayoze Perez. Real Sociedad, Atletico, Barca, Tigres, Atlanta United, and Al-Shabaab. Interested in Betis player Ayoze Perez. 4 million euro is what is being talked about. But once again, in these kinds of situations, check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. So Ayoze Perez is now on the board for what what it is worth. So keep an eye out for that. But remember, no one is going to be doing any kind of front office discussions through the world of public opinion. Traditionally, this is an organization that what they do is when they are close to a deal, as they were with Alexei Miranchuk, then you know about it. Then you know. It's not something that is going to be done throughout the entire process. All of the negotiations, all the players, all of the ideas that they have in mind behind closed doors. And then when it gets to close, then that's when word comes out, because of all of the sourcing that is going on overseas. That was when the Alexei Miranchuk discussions started picking up in earnest, at least on our end of the discussions outside of the organization, where then you're starting to do all of your research and you're starting to figure out, okay, what could Miranchuk bring to the table, all those kinds of things. So if we were to go down said rabbit hole involving the Real Betis forward Ayoze Perez, and once again, valued according to our friends at Transfermarkt, right now it's 7 million. 7 million euro is his current value, under contract through the end of the 26 fiscal year. Main position, left winger. And that's been a point that we've been discussing. Do you chase after something on the left wing, knowing that what you've gotten from Jamal and from Daniel Rios is exceeding both your financial and your physical expectations? And I don't think that's a far stretch to say. I think that Daniel Rios has exceeded what his anticipated idea was, and Jamal when he's healthy. But you need to look at what's going on the left. And so and like I said, this is a name to put to the side and just kind of casually keep an eye on. This is not something where you sit there and you put your nose to the grindstone and sit there and maybe maybe you do. Maybe you set your notifications for Ayoze Perez. Main position, left wing, but he's also spent some time as center forward and a second striker. Remember, this is the same Ayoze Perez. You asked Jason Nix about Ayoze Perez, who was a part of Leicester City 5 years ago. So he's been Premier League, what have you. CD Tenerife U19s, Newcastle, yes. And thank you, Michael. Yes. And so Alex would know about Ayoze Perez as well. Tenerife to Newcastle, spent 5 years at Newcastle, spends another 4 at Leicester before going to Real Betis, and he's going loan, end of loan, transfer. So Ayoze Perez is a known commodity among those of us who get to spend time in the Prem. So left winger and attack. 31. So we'll keep an eye on those numbers. But 223 appearances in the Premier League, 45 goals, 17 assists. Overall, 419 appearances in his career, 95 goals, 40 assists. So minutes per goal, 282. But Premier League is where he has spent most of his time. Right. Ayoze Perez, literally, Emilio, what I did is I did an Atlanta United transfer search on the 280 character app just to see if there's any name or discussion out there. And like I said, check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. This is a dude that has minimal followers at best. And I'll be kind. But, like I said, if you want to attach to a name, like I said, I just did a random Atlanta United search to see if there was anything out there. And a name that was listed was Ayoze Perez, but of course a half a dozen clubs are a part of this discussion. Does Atlanta United have a chance? Who knows? Is he being looked at by Atlanta United? Who knows? But literally, that's where we are with, and I did that to just to reemphasize that you don't see a lot of Atlanta United news because a lot of it is done behind closed doors. And literally, this dude has like maybe 115 followers. So this was not meant to get anyone's hopes up, but it was to emphasize the point that there is not a lot of discussion out there because that's how this club has always operated. But if you want to set a notification to check on Ayoze Perez going forward, go for it. But there's like 5 or 6 clubs that are apparently, allegedly, possibly, probably chasing after Ayoze Perez, who we know from his time at Newcastle and Leicester. 31-year-old winger, has spent time in the middle as well. But everybody who follows the Premier League knows him at Newcastle and Leicester. But right now he's at Real Betis. We are Michael, don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh, Michael. Yeah, so Michael's like, I love it when SDH breaks transfer news. Yeah, and Unc, to your point, whispers become shouts. Unc, the longer they drag their heels, the more an impact the visa process will have. Really hope they pick up the pace a little bit. But Unc, once again, we don't know what their pace is. We don't know what their pace is. They could be doing stuff that could be weeks old. But because this is how the club has traditionally operated, they could be further down a road on dude or multiple dudes. And traditionally, we won't know until the end, when things are close or whether they're getting over the line or whatever. Traditionally, this club has operated in secrecy because what you do not want to do is sit there and say, well, yeah, we're interested in, and this is not to put a name out there at all. This is me just pulling for an example. Let's go back to the Callum Wilson idea. If they were interested in, say, Callum Wilson, and Unc's the point still stands. If they were interested in Callum Wilson, they call up their buddy Darren Eales, who recently had another birthday, by the way. So you call up your buddy Darren Eales, who might be fighting a little bit of PSR. Still, profit and sustainability rules. And we'll get into Premier League and Leagues Cup, and we've got all that other stuff to come up and whatever else is on your mind this morning. And I know that, like I said, you guys have been discussing season ticket renewals as well. If you were to be interested in a player like a Callum Wilson, just like I said, as a name just to put out there, considering rumors in the past, you would have been working on that for weeks ahead of time, traditionally, leading into a desire to sign something before a window closes. This has not been a franchise that traditionally sits there and goes, you're walking down the sidewalk, you see something in the window and you go, ooh, impulse buy. They're the folks that, they're the ones that will walk up and down the sidewalk and look in all the store windows. They'll sit there and they'll take a note in the store. They'll look off to the right and they'll go, oh, I like that at FAO Schwartz. I'll write that down. I'll go in and I'll, talk to the folks inside FAO Schwartz, but then I'll keep walking down the road. That conversation would have already passed. It's not something where they turn it at Darren and go, hey, Darren, you want to dump Callum Wilson? Conversations would have been a lot further along than, hey, you pick up the phone, you make a deal. No. Traditionally, what they've always done is we don't know what we don't know until the end. So even if something was available, regardless of whom it is, regardless of whom, the conversations that the front office have been having about any individual are so further down the road than what we know. That's just traditionally how it is. So anything involving visas, anything involving anything like that, then yes, you would have had those discussions already started at the beginning of the window or before the window started so you can get off and running. And like I said, the hope is obviously that Miranchuk will be up and running and ready to go in theory by the LAG match if it is going to, in fact, be on the 24th in Los Angeles. Because if Leagues Cup continues the way that it goes and LAG continues where they go, maybe it gets pushed back a day and it ends up on the 25th or something like that. But any player conversations that Atlanta United has of any level of seriousness, we don't know. And my hand to my heart, I don't know them either. I'm not just blowing smoke up your you-know-what just to sit here and tell you what I do or don't know. I do not know anything going on. But what we do know over time is that the front office is way down the road when it comes to bringing in players before we even get a sniff as to what's going on. And so, in theory, with that traditionally being the case, anything involving any P1 visa, any ITCs, anything of that import, that's already been in the works. And you're setting up the folks that hey, when this happens, we got to jump. And so then you're at the mercy of the federal government. But yeah, I have not seen, like I said, anything involving any other folks. When we do, obviously, we'll start talking about it and we'll start stalking them as we always do on the web and on the 280 character app. But literally, I was just trying to sit there and make a point about things. And literally, I put in the 280 character app, I put in Atlanta United transfer, and Iosi Perez's name came up. So, like I said, it is a dude with so few followers. Wherever it came from is wherever it came from. So, why not? All right. So if I could spell Perez. All right. So here we go. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and do the Google search. Nothing of any of those. So it was a question. Yeah, nothing of any newness, period. Short of like literally that one mention from a guy that's got like 100 followers. But like I said, that's where we are. 12 days left in the window. And just because you've got money in your pocket doesn't mean that you need to spend it. I think that we have kind of reoriented our search. I mean, just from our discussions that we have here on the show, that if you find a left winger, okay, cool. Now, I think that might be something that if that happens through the analytics, then that's what you go chasing after. But obviously, like I said, I think that with Daniel Rios and I think with a healthy Jamal, I think that you've exceeded your expectations and you've got your backup in your number 3 striker. If you find someone on the left that can help augment things on the right with Saba, so then, like I said, you're looking at that as a possibility ahead of a striker, and you can get a striker in the winter window. Like I said, and like I said, Unk, it has been infrequent. Yes, I will stipulate that. Fingers crossed. Abby is heading to Toyota. Oh my God, could we be toward the end of the possibility of wondering Abstermobile 2.0? Could we finally be getting to this so Abby can actually have a new set of wheels? I hope so. I know that this has been something that that she's been chasing after for a long time. Emilio wanting to know, can you negotiate a deal prior to a window and just not announce it? Happens in pro cycling a bit. I think you can sign pre-contracts. I don't think you can necessarily not announce it for a double negative, but I think what you can do is sign a pre. If someone is in the last 6 months of their window or last 6 months of their contract and they're not going to renew, I think you can sign a pre-contract with somebody. And then when that contract is up, then if all parties agree, then you can do it that way. I look at it like Europe, where you see players not wanting to sign a new deal with a club, but they'll sign a pre-contract with a future club. I think that's the same behavior pattern that you can see here. Like I said, I know that you guys have been talking a lot about the season ticket renewals and the deadline for season ticket cancellation. Interesting to see the renewal rate whenever the club releases it. Amelia said fan board had a poll 420-ish, said 71 will renew, 27 will not, rest will reduce tickets. So then Michael sent feedback on the increase, lack of fan appreciation, and overall disappointment in the club. And I think Emilio, I think this would be an interesting test. I think it would be an interesting test case. Emilio is like, has anyone compared our situation with others? I'd like to. I wonder if and this might be something that you'd have to go through all the other supporters groups to find out when it comes to this particular time of year and next year, what the renewal percentages are, desire for renewal percentages, those kinds of things. I think that would be, it would be just interesting to have those numbers year to year and see what's up. Michael says he does hope season ticket members stick it out. If he still lived there, he would still love the team and the fan experience. And Michael, to your point about Sunday's attendance, I'd like to know just across the board what Leagues Cup attendance actually is. And so now, since we're going down the Leagues Cup road, we'll go down the Leagues Cup road. But I would love to know, just off the top of my head, and just if it's available, Leagues Cup attendance. Okay, so there is on the we do have some Leagues Cup attendance numbers and things like that. So that's where we are. Nick, good morning, sir. First off, now that you're here, I wanted to talk to you about the Carly Banks piece that I'm trying to encourage folks to go and watch on the SDH social medias and on the YouTube channel. I wanted to get into this production with you. I'm going to put a bookmark in Leagues Cup here for a bit. And I know I also want to talk to you about what's going on at Juve. Now that you're here and now that you've got that on you were on my list of things to discuss with Juventus and what they are and aren't doing and things like that. But before we get into the Juve discussion and transfers and Leagues Cup and all that other stuff, I wanted to pick your brain about the Carly Banks piece. It's a 7-minute piece and it's very, very well done. And I would encourage anyone and everyone to go to the SDH network and watch it. What was it like for you to piece it together? And because there were a couple of different production elements in it that I thought were interesting when it came to career progression and how you represented that and that kind of stuff. What was it like for you to piece this together? I don't want to spoil the thing because I want folks to go watch it, but I want folks to go watch it. So I want to ask you about it. So what was it like piecing it together?
It was, I appreciate the kind words on that. It was very easy to put together because Maddie and Carly made it easy. First of all, for anyone to be competing at any sort of level at 38 years old, and far be it from me to put someone's age out there, but I think that's the story, is that Carly Banks is 38 and she's still competing at a national team level. And not just that, but she was extraordinarily kind and generous with her time and very patient, because I can, as kind of goofy and sort of freewheeling as I can be on our broadcast anyway, when it comes time to hit the record button, I'm a bit of a control enthusiast.
No.
So it was great to put together. It was a lot of fun. I think Maddie does her research on the subject that she's interviewing. She's very passionate about how she goes about her business. Carly came in with a great story. A little bit of insider baseball. When I worked at NCAA.com, I tried to cover the LSU women's team. At the time, Mo Isom was the keeper. She was trying out for the football team, and I thought, hey, look, man, this is news, because LSU women's team was they were getting a lot of love down in Baton Rouge, and that's something I really wanted to cover. The higher ups at NCAA.com thought, nah, we don't need to cover that. Let's cover something else instead. And so it was a great opportunity for this to sort of come full circle and me to at least loosely be able to be that LSU team adjacent. So that was it was a great thing. But this is the kind of content that we want to put out going forward. This is the kind of stuff with the SDH network. When we talk about it being a network, it's not just the broadcast side. We also want to put together pieces around these great people in the community, educational opportunities, be able to talk to people at a different level. And so it was a marvelous, fun thing that I got to be a part of, and grateful for the opportunity.
Yes, grateful for the opportunity. Uh, I'm gonna put a bit of a bookmark. Like I said, I'm gonna put a bit of a bookmark into transfers and things. Specifically, one of the topics I wanted to get into this morning is a bit of a soccer over there's thing. And like I said, I know that I'm going to get into Leagues Cup because we've got to set that up and getting ready for the next round and all that kind of stuff. And the news of the day with transfers. Atletico Madrid, very, very busy. Conor Gallagher and Julian Alvarez. And I think 95 million is the price tag on Alvarez. But I'm going to ask this, and I'm going to ask this with as much respect as I can put on the question. What in the blue hell is going on at Juve?
They're cleaning house. If you look at when Malta's coming in to take over that team, and the key issue that has plagued Juventus for the entire Allegri window uh, was that they were boring, that they would get a goal and then literally everyone goes behind the half line to defend. It didn't matter if that goal came within 5 minutes of the game starting or at the 85th minute. It did not matter. One goal, then it's all out defend. And so Malta's going to be changing things up. And he does not want anyone, that he feels is surplus to the cause. And the difference between what Juve was and what Juve's trying to be is that they're trying to be a leaner operation. They are not stacking players on the bench anymore. They are not trying to, build a roster that, oh, we have player X and that's great from a marketing standpoint. Nope, that's out the window. Now it is, do you contribute to Malta's vision? Do you not? If the answer is you do not, you're out the door. And anyone who could be seen as a hindrance to that is going to be out the door. Now, the one name that interests me in this more than anyone is Chiesa, because Chiesa seems to me he would fit what Malta's trying to do. So maybe there was an interview process and Malta just didn't like the vibe, or maybe Chiesa didn't like the vibe. And as a result, Malta said, yeah, you're not coming along on this journey. And they've already moved, according to reports, removed the jerseys of all of these players, including Weston McKennie, from the retail sites.
Mm.
And that to me is very interesting, because this is Juve burning the boats, for lack of a better term. There is no going back in their mind. They are completely committed to this rebuild, and a lot of players are hitting the open market now. When let's be honest, I was expecting any sort of player news like this to be coming maybe 2 months ago. Where there's that natural, we're moving away from Allegri. Here are some of the players we want to get rid of. To have this level of wholesale change in August is pretty interesting in my book. But Juve got in trouble for cooking the books. So this is not just a cultural shift. This is also a financial shift. They're trying to clean up their act financially as well. And you can't do that with a bunch of players stashed away. Szczesny is going to be probably the guy who Szczesny and Chiesa are the first two who are going to probably be signed out of the gate. Weston McKennie, somebody who is going to obviously here on these shores is going to get the most interest. Is he, there was talk that he was looking at Cincinnati. Is that still happening? Is there an MLS destination for him? I would say that Atlanta makes a lot of sense for one Mr. Weston McKennie in my mind, but that's for deeper pockets and allegedly smarter folks to entertain.
Nick's
So
starting rumors again.
yeah, that's what I do.
Yes.
I create content and start rumors.
Yes. According to Gazzetta dello Sport, basically, fans buy a shirt. You've got the option of getting it personalized. And this is from our friends at Football Italia. Have the option of getting it personalized with the name and number of the favorite player. Online, there's a drop-down menu. No longer had the opportunity to choose Chesney, Rugani, Chiesa, Milik, McKinney, or Mattia DeCilio. You can still choose Giallo, Facundo Gonzalez, and Caviglia. And like I said, that's like a day ago that you can't blank and do that at Juve with those players on a drop down menu now. And so I find it interesting that they're that locked into the idea of, okay, we're going to blow up these names, and you can't you can't touch these names anymore. They are absolutely out the door.
Well, Juventus, look, here's the thing. Culturally, Juventus has been known for being ruthless. They embody the Al Davis just win baby. Doesn't matter how, doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be spectacular, just win. And this goes back to the Agnelli days. Now, a bit of that ruthlessness has been pushed aside for more of like the corporate pragmatism. That since they are a publicly traded company, I mean, it is what it is. It's not just my personal Juve hate, but here's the thing: if you are an Italian national team fan, you want Juventus to be strong, because typically when Italy has done well, Juve had a strong team. A strong team, largely Italian, sprinkled with an Eastern European talent, a couple of French guys. They did really well. Juve did really well with that model.
Yes.
This is something I think they're trying to get back to, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out long term and how this plays out. They're never going to have a problem getting Italian talent. They're not. But they might have a problem getting talent outside of Italy if the agents start looking at this as Juventus is being more cutthroat than they were in the past. That may make it a bit more of a difficult to convince these agents that, hey, look, we are a destination. Come here, and your player's going to soar. But hey, it's something that I really want to know where Weston ends up in this. McKinney, like Malik, is somebody who I think a lot of teams that could use some attacking talent could go after. Go get Malik. Szczesny is a keeper who has a lot of years left. In my opinion, I don't think he's ready to quite hang it up yet, unless he's personally ready to walk away. He's a talented guy. That's a bit of a head scratcher to me. But Weston is the guy who, in my opinion, there are a couple teams in Italy that would take him right away. I think Fiorentina is a team that could take him right away. A lot of other teams still have sort of this anti-American bias.
No.
I know, it's crazy. Milan, I don't think I think that they are so tight on their transfer budget. I don't see them trying to make any sort of signings that, like McKinney, I think McKinney's best opportunity to earn money will be coming here to MLS and getting a DP deal. And I think that's the best opportunity for him. I don't see, I would not go to Ligue 1. I think Ligue 1 is still, there's a lot of upheaval right now financially there.
You ain't
doesn't
kidding,
make
brother.
a lot of sense. La Liga, could be tough to break in over there. The Prem, to me, I would not know. You're going to go to a lower tier Premier League squad, and it just, I don't know. Forecart says Milan is now AC USA Milan. Well, look, it's between AC USA / France. I don't know. We seem to be we seem to be targeting a ton of people in France, and
Friends.
but I want to, if I can say one positive thing right now,
Yeah, go
because
for it.
very rarely do we get positive news out of Serie A.
You
AC
should.
Milan became the first major club, major organization
Mhm.
to guarantee women's contracts when they are expecting mothers.
Love
So
that.
if you have a player on the women's side who has a baby or gets pregnant, instead of being released or having financial insecurity, Milan says, "Look, we're going to give you a 1-year guaranteed deal." So to me, that is spectacular and wonderful progress for the game.
Oh, that reminds me. We've got to catch up with the Della Peruta sisters. We got to figure out what's going on
We
with that.
do.
One goes to Feyenoord and the other goes to a
To
place.
Roma.
Yeah, so we got to catch up with the Della Peruta sisters.
That's great. Look, that's great for Tori going to Roma. Roma has put so much marketing energy behind their women's squad. It is just, and I think that this is a coup for them because it allows you to tap into a U.S. market that is, always hungry for women's soccer content. So Della Peruta going to Roma with that marketing muscle, that is a great, great move for all parties involved. I really, really wish she had gone to Milan, but yeah, you're going to Roma. I can't be mad at that.
Juve reportedly on the verge of selling Caviglia to Venezia and Barbieri to Cremonese, which would bring in another €8 million. Let's see. Mats Hummels thanked Bologna for their interest, not interested in joining as a free. Inter could have another free agent swoop. Ecuadorian international and right back Jonas Spinoza has been offered. Chelsea decided to completely give up on their chase of Victor Osimhen, switching to Atletico Madrid's Samo Amorodion. Let's see. Juve sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli will meet with the reps of Porto winger Galeno in the coming hours to try to set up a deal, and that is fresh this morning. Conte has specifically asked for David Neres, and Napoli are pushing with talks with Benfica to try and get the Brazilian winger. Reports suggest that Nottingham Forest owner Evangelinas Marinakis is in talks with Monza as he considers a possible takeover. Gee, let's just continue adding resources.
Well, look, Monza's an interesting story because that was the group that was purchased by former Italian PM whack job and legendary Milan owner Silvio Berlusconi.
Check.
And so when Berlusconi passed away, there was that situation obviously is in flux. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them because they were a squad that literally were brought out of nowhere and raised up. So it will be interesting to see how Monza continues into the future because that Berlusconi money, but Berlusconi was a nutcase.
True.
He was a damn good owner which is hard. It's hard to split hairs with that.
Yes.
When you had a proto-fascist running running your favorite club, that is a terrible place to be. But he had tremendous success, and that he did it everywhere he went. So I mean, it's kind of hard. You can't knock the hustle. You can hate the man, right? Easy to do that.
Yes.
But, he was very good at what he did.
Hate the bustle, but can't knock the hustle.
Yeah, pretty much.
Juve owner and Exor CEO John Elkann opened up about the extraordinary potential at the club under Thiago Motta, calling him the person we need.
Yeah, they needed an exciting brand of ball. I cannot tell, if you did not watch Serie A, I cannot tell you how horribly painful it was to watch Juventus. It was. This is not even like Catenaccio. This is where there was like a plan, like we move here. There's a fluidity to the defense. Steel spine. This was not exciting. This was just grind, a slow, horrible grind.
Yeah, it was pretty painful.
And Allegri reveled in that. I am a defensive I believe in the success of defensive ball. I understand that Allegri, what Allegri was trying to do, but at the same time, it wasn't even risk averse. It was like it was risk was toxic at all levels, and you had it where a team, you weren't getting opportunities to display your team. Nobody wanted to watch Juventus. Nobody wants to pay to see Juventus.
No.
And now, hopefully, with Motta, you get some excitement, you get some energy. And if you're a big corporation financially backing them, that's a good thing, because with excitement, energy comes cash.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
Interview
Emilio, good job, Emilio. That's a good choice.
Yes. Interview with Calcio Mercato. No one in the world has such a long-standing relationship with sport as we do, and this goes beyond the idea of ownership. There will be a wonderful atmosphere here. We want to create a climate of sharing. The bond between our family and Juventus is very strong with these initiatives. We want to bring Juve into families at the same time. We are working to involve those who cannot be physically close to us with a great social activity. Commenting on Thiago Motta, with him, we're getting closer to a new generation. Our team is very young, and he has the necessary experience to work with our group. He is the person we need. The Juventus project has extraordinary potential. Victory belongs to those who have tenacity, the desire to get back in the game after moments of adversity. Year zero is to leave behind what happened in the past, press the reset button, and look forward. The athletes, the strong teams, are those who have these skills without coming up with excuses. On the other hand, it is normal for everyone to be against you. If you compete, you do it with the strongest in the world who want to beat you, and it is normal that if the results don't arrive, the fans aren't happy. Our football is no longer at the point of arrival of the great champions, but a springboard to go to the Premier League at the height of their career. In Italy, youngsters are playing their first games who need to develop. It's a shame not to face reality. This is the situation we are experiencing. The mistake would be to deny this evidence, end quote.
I want to. Can we bookmark this episode?
Absolutely.
All right. We need to put a flag down here.
Sure. No worries.
This is hard. This is hard for me. I feel a little bit of acid reflux happening.
I have some omeprazole here at the office, so if you need it, I can get it over to you.
I agree with Elkan.
Wow.
I agree with him.
Wow.
This is painful. He's right. He's right. You have Inter getting one of the best U19 talents and sending them to Serie A. Makes no sense to send one of the best up-and-coming talents to third division when you have kids in Spain, in France, who are getting starting opportunities, and that you're seeing how that plays out at the Euros, right? You have, Milan, thank God, is talking about bringing Camarda to the first team. He's been hanging out with them. He's been training with them. Please, God, let him stay at the first team. That kid looks like a young Zlatan, a young prime Zlatan. So I'm hoping Zlatan is in their ear saying, if you send this kid to Serie A, I'm like Bruce Lee cross-kicking all of you. But Milan seems to be ready to start younger players finally. If Juve is willing to do this as well, hopefully this is the sea change necessary to get us to the U.S. in 2026. That is what I'm hoping for. Get this young talent playing now and see what you have.
Starting 11 is out for the United States against Germany. No surprises. It is Nair, Fox, Gierma, Rodman, Dunn, Swanson, Horan with the captain's armband, Sophia Smith, Tierna Davidson, Rose Lavelle, Sam Coffey. So no surprises from Emma Hayes in the semifinal lineup against Germany. Couple of other things here on the grid in the Twitch pitch. Emilio with a question regarding wingers. And this comes with the discussion that we are having about the lack of production on the left-hand side. Is it concerning that only Saba has been somewhat successful as a winger under Pineda's system going back to Moreno? I know that we're going to agree to disagree about Marcelino Moreno. This makes me thinking it was the system that everyone just can't grasp it.
No, I think that this is. I don't think it's a product of just the of Pineda's system.
Right.
Uh, Pineda, I mean, look, I thought Marcy was a much better player than people gave him credit for.
Mhm.
I do think that he and Barco bumped into each other too often. I think that they occupied the same space too often. Um, I think that Atlanta United, and this is my one knock on the one thing that I saw with Pineda's system that I did not particularly like.
Mhm.
That it seemed that everything was forced down to the right hand side. That was
Well, when you have someone like a Brooks Lennon who
right,
is there to yield those crosses and move the ball forward, you can understand why you might be right dominant.
right. So, to me, they became predictable with that.
Mhm.
But you had a right-footed wingback. You know, you had it just I get it. I understand. I don't think it was just Pineda though, because the team's still struggling, right?
Right.
Without Pineda here.
Yeah.
You know, I have my own thoughts. My own thoughts are that, and this is completely not a representative of anyone else with the SDH network. I think that you could probably have a couple of pretty good coaches in here and probably experience the same level of success that you're experiencing right now.
Mhm.
So I think that the transfer window, I don't know how many windows it's going to be to get it right.
Yeah.
Uh, do I think it's going to be this window? No. Even if you get all of the designated players you want in this window, no, I don't think you're going to be set. I think you're talking about um, 3 windows is my take.
Mhm.
3 windows is my take to get it sorted. So, um, whether that's and that's not me taking anything off of what Garth Lagerwey said or anyone else prior to that. In my opinion, based on what I'm seeing on the field, I'm looking at you know I'm looking at about 3 windows to get whatever you want sorted. But that's just my opinion, my take. Moreno was good, yeah. I just think that you had players who, in stressful situations, people go to what they feel is natural, right? And I'll tell a very, very, very brief story. In boot camp at the
Dude,
rifle
we got
range.
20. We got 20 minutes, dude. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, I get people knock on me because they say I get long winded, but
What?
um,
It's a 2 hour plus show, Monday through Friday, man.
I know, but at boot camp at the rifle range, you had 2 kinds of people at the rifle range: people who never shot a weapon in their entire life, and people who shot regularly with their dad, grandpa, uncle, whatever, out in the wilds of West Virginia or whatever. Whenever you first started getting people on slow fire, you had everyone shooting across the board, right? Same level of instruction, professional instruction. Everyone was shooting across the board accurately, right where they're supposed to be.
Mhm.
However, when it came time for rapid fire, all of the people who had no previous training, right? The people who received just the professional training that the Marines offered, fired more accurately in rapid fire moments than the people who had all of this experience shooting with their dad, grandpappy, uncle, whatever. Because those habits came back to work, right? You some people get away from their training and go to the habit. What I saw with Marcelino Moreno was habit, that you get away from your system and you go to habit. The habit is to drift centrally, where you had Barco. And so then you had 2 guys right on next to each other who are operating on habit, because in a stressful situation, you're getting close to the 18. You need to start making choices as to where to move the ball quickly. But you have to find people whose habits also blend well with their acceptance of training, right? That's the thing, is that you can't just do this with stats and money ball tactics. You really need to watch games to say, okay, pressure situation, what does this player tend to do? That is the habit. Now, whether the habit blends well with the training that we're going to provide is completely different than what happens when a player bucks that training and goes solo with their what comes naturally to them.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a player who says, you know what, when things get tough, I'm going to push naturally to the left, to the wing, that may have worked better than somebody who drifts naturally to the middle in Pineda's system. Okay. So to me, that's where the differentiator is for talent athletically. So far you saw this with Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel's habits bailed him out on the football field because he would just improvise things.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you slowed the game down, that's when Manziel's bad habits as a quarterback came to the forefront. Tim Tebow, the same thing. When you slowed things down, that's when he looked like he had never thrown a ball in a day in his life. In high pressure situations, when the play breaks down, then Tebow suddenly looks like the second coming of Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you keep those individuals contained from their imagination,
right,
then they're predictable.
Yes. And so what you need to have as a player is not, when we talk about fit for system, every player, I don't care who they are, has habits,
mm-hmm.
things that they do. Can you make little tweaks to fit within a system? That's going to be the successful player, right? One of the greatest videos I ever saw was when Pete Rose went on Fox Sports baseball coverage. And it was Pete Rose, Alex Rodriguez, and it was Frank Thomas. And I'm trying to remember who the third guy was.
Was it Bonds? Was it Barry Bonds part of this discussion?
I don't think so. But
so it was, or Ripken.
It might have been Ripken, but
okay.
they were talking about what you do in a slump.
Yeah.
And it was the one time that I ever saw Alex Rodriguez and Frank Thomas completely awestruck, right? Because Rose is explaining what to do when you get into a slump. Because automatically these guys are like, oh, you change your swing. And Pete's like, no, you don't do that. You choke up on the bat, you go down on the bat. You step up in the box, you step back in the box. You make these subtle little tweaks to get out of your slump, but you don't change fundamentally who you are, because that's what got you to the show. Players, especially in soccer, are required to freelance. That's part of the game, right? It's not like football where it's, okay, you run 8 steps and then you immediately cut over to try to break the zone coverage up, right? You're trying to find the gap between your cornerback and your safety, or your cornerback and your linebacker. You must run these specific number of steps. It's not like that in soccer. You want your player who is creative to be able to freelance. But part of this is being able to say, I can do it also within a system. I think that's where Atlanta United is right now. We're getting players, which is why you're seeing these players go other places and have success, for one of two reasons. One, because their habits did not fit well with the system that was here, or the player learned to fit within a system later on as they matured and grew older, right? Atlanta United has to figure out, by watching game tape, what these habits are for these players, what their openness to instruction is, what their openness in sort of not correcting bad habits,
mm-hmm.
but knowing when to indulge that habit and knowing when to break away from the habit. Atlanta United has to focus on that if you want successful players to come in here and be able to get this team to where you want it to be. I think Rios is a prime example of this. When Rios is somebody who, there was a reason why he was in the USL, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's found success here. because his habits work well with the system that's in place. It's a good fit. So, I think that's something that bears watching. So, that's my long-winded approach, but habit versus acceptance of your role is going to be the differentiator between long-term success and the flash in the pan. And that's what Atlanta United needs to figure out. And it's going to take 3 windows to get those players in because it's not it's it's not just a matter of what shows up on a stat sheet somewhere or some sort of metric.
Yeah.
So,
there you go. By the way, Asi Furhound at Forbes. Marta will sit out the semifinal against Spain today after the Court of Arbitration of Sport dismissed her appeal against the 2-game suspension. In the judgment, Cass said, quote, the applicant sought the annulment of the challenged decision and a new decision establishing that the player served only a 1-match suspension, already served in the match of 3 August against the French team, and authorizing her to participate in Brazil's next match against Spain on 6 August. In rejecting the appeal, Cass said the full award with grounds will be issued to the parties in due course. So basically, they issue this paragraph ruling, and then they come up with a longer one later. Marta was shown a straight red last Wednesday for raising her foot, making contact with the bowed head of Spanish defender Olga Carmona. Any player who gets a red in a match must serve an automatic suspension. Any additional suspension subject to disco of FIFA on Thursday on the grounds that Marta's kick was a serious offense. FIFA imposed a 2-game ban on the 6-time World Player of the Year, ruled her out of the quarterfinal and any potential semifinal. And now Brazil gets Spain again, second time in a week. Marta remains suspended on Sunday. The Brazilian Federation, the CBF, said that they were going to spare no effort to reverse the exaggerated sanction imposed by FIFA, end quote. In making an appeal, they suggested the second game be suspended, thus allowing her to play in today's semi. Yesterday, the CBF announced that after exhausting disciplinary remedies at FIFA, they would take the matter to CAS. Appeal put together by the CBF legal department and the Brazilian Olympic Committee. They based their claim on the fact that the foul was not intentional, occurred without the use of violence, and did not even cause any harm to the opposing athlete who remained in the match normally, end quote. And then they went ahead and continued to emphasize Marta's status, the CBF, as one of the greatest players of all time as a mitigating factor. Parallels with the CBF achieved with the 62 Men's World Cup after Garrincha was sent off in the semi, risked being banned for the final against Czechoslovakia. Garrincha reacted violently to provocation from a Chilean defender kneeing him in the back. Red card did not carry the 1-match suspension. Despite the decision by CAS to dismiss the appeal, Marta is cleared to play in Brazil's following match. So win or lose, she can take part in either a gold medal match or a bronze medal match. So basically, if I'm interpreting this correctly, Brazil basically is like, well, it wasn't serious. The player kept playing, and she's a great player. Why penalize her? So that I think that, did I summarize the Brazilian defense correctly, Nick?
Well, I think there's one key caveat that was missed there is that, it wasn't intentional. The player played, the aggrieved party continued playing without injury. Also, it's one of the greatest players of all time. So come on, cut us some slack.
Yes.
And what is undoubtedly her swan song. Look, she did like a Bruce Lee cross kick, man.
That's what I'm saying.
You at least got to get a game. I'm with David. Red card, 1 match. All right. But it is what it is. Like it was an offense. It was a serious offense. It was not, in my mind, violent conduct. So this is.
But don't go down the road. And she's also one of the greatest players that the sport's ever seen.
Well, and I can attest. I've played against Marta, so I can tell you that the assertion is true. She is mind-bendingly good.
Yeah.
And her status within the pantheon, I think, is solidified. However,
but you don't do that. But she's one of the greatest players too.
Look, you just gotta. I think going to CAS, I think it's the Brazilian Federation did what they had to do. They probably knew walking in they were not going to win, but they could at least go to Marta and say, "Look, we did everything we could." Right? Politically, we saved our own hides. We did everything we could to ensure that Marta could get back on the field as quickly as possible. So I don't know. It's
yeah. Emilio, back to your previous point, does coaching usually involve this type of habit analysis?
Yes and no.
I would imagine if you're watching video that you would get those tendencies and have those tendencies available to you.
Well, yes and no. From the standpoint of if you're a manager who hyper controls things like Pep, right?
Yes.
Pep would want to watch video on every player to know exactly what their tendencies are, to find out how coachable they are and how they fit within the system. Look no further than the story that Thierry Henry said when he went to Barcelona and he was playing on the wing and then cut over to the middle and scored, and Pep subbed him off. And he's like, "Why are you subbing me off?" He's like, "You didn't do what I told you to do." Right? Pep would want that level of control, but a vast majority of the time globally you have a front office, no matter the team, who says, "This is how we want to play. This is the style we want to have." So we're going to hire a manager who plays this style.
Right.
And the manager can come in and do additional scouting on this, or what you say is, okay, the player has habits, but is not coachable. No matter how much coaching they receive, they still fall back into those habits.
Yeah,
that's probably not a player we want to bring in. Based upon the style of play we have. This is like wingers who have a tendency to push way too far forward. Defensive midfielders who don't participate enough in attacks, strikers who wait for a shot to be created for them as opposed to creating their own shot. If I'm a high pressing team, and you saw this, I'm trying to remember, God, I can't remember the guy's name. He was with Red Bull, and I want to say he went to Chelsea. He was a striker. Mm-hmm. And my main critique was the guy doesn't create his own shot. He waits for a shot to be created. That's his skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, no. Do you see the scores? Okay, watch. Played out exactly like I thought it would, right? Because there are some habits that players just can't get out of. The gravity of success is
right.
what they're good at. But
yes,
some front offices will look at this and make choices based on that. And some will say, we are going to bypass that option entirely because of those habits. Each team does things differently. I would completely understand if someone said, you have to have a coach to make that kind of decision. I would completely understand. But I would also understand a front office that says, we would not bring in a player like that, because they have to be coachable to a certain extent. To me, that's, if for example, if I'm hiring a Portuguese manager, Portuguese managers tend to want to overdevelop the wings. They develop the wings faster than they develop strikers, because that's traditionally, when you're coming up in Portugal, that's the traditional Portugal play, is they develop wings. And then as they start aging out of being a winger, they move them centrally to striker. So I know what I need to do. I know what I need to have on the wings, right? I know how I can develop those players. Good habits, bad habits. I know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Certain players from a defensive perspective, what the player is going to do. I can make them work within that system. It's one of these great soccer bar discussions that will cause fist fights at 11:30 at night. And I completely understand the argument on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Newcastle close to a Mark Gahey deal. Crystal Palace defender keen to move on. We're going to bookmark Leagues Cup attendance figures. Let's go through what happened last night with Leagues Cup. One more match in the opening round. New England and Nashville. is on the free side of Apple TV tonight in front of tens of people anticipated at Gillette. 7:30 on the free side of Apple TV and FS1. Last night, Toluca beat Sporting Kansas City 2-1. Colorado came back in PKs to beat León. It was 1-1 after 90. They won in PKs 4-3. Houston shut out RSL, took them to the whooping shed last night 3-0 at Hell in a Shell. NYC had a 2-0 lead with about 15 minutes to go. In 11 minutes, it disappeared and then some. Cincinnati came back to win at TQL by the final of 4-2. So that sets up your standings with the one match left in the opening round. And East 1, Cincinnati is your 1. NYC is your 2. Querétaro eliminated. East 2. Orlando is your 1. Montreal is your 2. Atlético San Luis eliminated. East 3. Tigres, your 1. Messi and Friends is your 2. Puebla eliminated. East 4. Philadelphia, 1. Cruz Azul, 2. Charlotte eliminated. East 5, the one match to go. And if Nashville wins, there's math, and it could be very chaotic. Because right now New England has 3 points and a goal difference of +1. Mazatlan is in the barn with 3 points. They have a goal difference of +1. Nashville is at a goal difference of -2, so they would need some help. They need to win tonight and win big to get into the tournament. New England, like I said, Mazatlan, each at 3 points, each with a goal difference of +1. Nashville, no points in their one match, goal difference of -2. So Nashville tonight has to win and win big at 7:30. East 6, Toronto is your 1. John Herdman has decided now not to talk about things after talking about them a whole lot. Now he says he's going to wait for the legal process to take care of itself.
Can I jump into this?
Sure.
This is a prime example, ladies and gentlemen, as your unofficial, unbar certified internet lawyer.
Yes.
Do not ever,
thank you, Chris Jericho,
talk about mess that you are associated with that could be remotely construed as unethical, illegal, just in law school they have the, don't hide anything behind the 8 ball.
Plausible deniability.
Just say, hey, coach, talk about those Canadian drones. Huh? Canadian drones. Yeah, I'm not talking about it. I'm here to the Bill Belichick defense. I'm here to talk about El Salvador. I'm here to talk about playing the United States. I'm here to talk about playing Mexico. What about the drones? Are the drones in Mexico? No. Okay. Canada will be playing Mexico in Mexico. That's what I'm talking about.
In my time as head coach at Olympic Games or World Cups, we've never been involved in any of those activities, and that got folks mad.
Nope. All you say is, we're here to talk about the Olympics. We're here to talk about this. We're here to talk. That's it. The Bill Belichick defense. We're on to El Salvador.
We're moving on. We're moving on to El Salvador.
What about drones? The drones are not El Salvadorian drones, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about El Salvador. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Don't ever put yourself out over your skis like this, man.
But he certainly has. Piss people off to do it. East 7, DC's your 1, Santos Laguna is the 2, Atlanta not in it in the round of 32. West 1, Austin is your 1. Pumas and Monterrey had an elimination match. Pumas won. So Pumas is your 2 in West 1. Monterrey, once again, does not show up in a postseason tournament, and they go home. West 2, LAG is your 1. San Jose is your 2. They had the better showing in the shootout over Chivas, and so Chivas goes home. West 3. FC Juarez is your 1. All Caps is your 2. Dallas lost both matches. They're out. West 4. Toluca with the win last night. They're your 1 in West 4. Sporting Kansas City is your 2. Chicago Fire eliminated. West 5. Portland is your 1. Colorado with their win last night, getting the extra point in the shootout win, is your 2. León goes home. West 6. Necaxa is in. Seattle is in. Minnesota goes home. West 7. Vancouver is your 1. LAFC is your 2. Xolos lost both matches. They go home. West 8, after what happened last night, Houston with the big win, 3 points, goal difference of +2. Atlas goal difference of 0. RSL's big loss last night to Houston cost them the round of 32. So the teams not making it to the round of 32 out of the Leagues Cup tournament: RSL, Xolos, Minnesota United, León, Chicago, FC Dallas, Chivas, Monterrey, Atlanta United, Red Bulls, the one that does not survive tonight in East 5, Charlotte, Puebla, Atletico San Luis, and Querétaro. So that's what you're staring at with one match to go in the opening round of Leagues Cup, and we will sort out that and attendance figures and all the other stuff that we have bookmarked tomorrow. So that I've got in here. See, I have my list for tomorrow. I'm already writing my list for what to talk about tomorrow, since we didn't get to it today. Any other thoughts in your mind other than plausible deniability and telling your client never to speak of anything about that kind of stuff ever, ever, ever? It doesn't matter what that stuff is.
Multiplayer gaming is spam botting us here.
Yes, and I am taking care of that right now. I have officially blocked multiplayer gaming 222.
There you go.
And now I am reporting multiplayer gaming 222. Do not mess with the Twitch pitch.
No.
Because they are fast on the draw with this stuff, and they let us know. 11-11. She made a wish at 11-11. Had her hands on her hips at 12:34. Underrated song from Arkells. So there you go.
Right.
All right, so that's taken care of. Last thoughts before we get out of here.
Go to the SDH Network YouTube page
if
you would like to see the Carly Banks interview. We had a good time with it. We pretty much, special shout out to Stars Mill athletic department, who gave us pretty much free run to shoot whatever we wanted.
Except for the band camp.
The band camp that was completely off everyone's radar except the band camp's own radar. And they occupied the field for us. Outside of that, anything outside the stadium, anything around the campus, Stars Mill said, yep, have fun. So we appreciate that. Shout out to Carly Banks for being such a wonderful, wonderful interview subject for us. And especially to Madison Cruz, who showed up prepared, ready to go. And both ladies who were exceptionally patient with a hyper-controlling Nimrod like myself.
With the SDH's version of Scorsese.
Probably more Roger Corman, but
okay.
It all works out.
Absolutely. Back at it again tomorrow morning at 9:05. Tyler Pilgrim joining us at 9:15. Hopefully we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, as well at 10 o'clock. We'll be out of Leagues Cup. Group stage, heading ready for the round of 32. We'll have all of our matchups there. Still have 12 days as of today left in the window to see if there's any other magic that can happen with anybody in any window involving Major League Soccer. Keep an eye on the Luca Langoni signing from South America for New England Revolution. See if that helps out Caleb Porter or if he's just going to continue to trade folks away and bring folks up from New England Revolution too, and make Richie Williams continue his losing streak down there. They have been abysmal since May the 1st, 2-9-4, I believe, or 2-9-1 since May the 4th. So not good for Revs 2, might be good for the parent club, but Langoni now officially signed, I think, with the Revs. So keep an eye on that as we go. So, Nick, I don't know if you have ever made a point to whistle us out of here. Since we have no closed music, we just go with whistling now and whistle our favorite tunes. Or in my case, I whistle the Gary Shandling Show music. So if you would be so kind, sir, whistle us out of here, and we'd be back in a little less than 22.
Machete don't whistle.